So this is the first tank that we had, our own tank at Mjoderiet, and because we were starting up and we were really enthusiastic, my mother gave us this for the meadery. So we named it. Sadly we don't use it so much anymore because it's quite small. But we named it. We made a special plaque for a name for this tank. And it's called Grita Hanarmor, which is an old, like, Norwegian kind of traditional song. Everybody in the old generation know it from the radio, and it means mom's cooking pot, which is a very nostalgic song about, you know, my dear mom and her cooking and all this stuff, and looking back to, you know.
I think you should really sing that song, you know, just to give our viewers a bit of.
Come on. We can find it on YouTube. Maybe we should make a meal with just title that.
Hello everyone, we back, Kings of Mead. We visit Bergen, Norway. We try to show you a little bit in the town, but weather is terrible. Currently in Bergen, 200 days a year it's raining, and looks like it's one of these days. So I don't know how much we're gonna show you, but the town is not the place what we want to show you. We want to take you to the meadery in Norway, in Bergen. So follow us.
See, the weather still is what it is in Bergen. Well, we are actually now in the, well, it's kind of like a center by the harbor, where the famous Bergen houses are. Nice colourful, you can always find on the pictures, on the images from Bergen. So we just took like an alley between some of the houses to find a bit of a shelter, but unfortunately we thought it was going to be a bit of a roof over the head, but it isn't. So let's go a bit further. We'll see what's over there. So we just found a nice dry spot for a few minutes. A funny story. We just went in the store to buy some souvenirs for our families while we're here in Norway, and we just got a complimentary coffee in a gift shop, which was really nice on a rainy day like that. People are really friendly in Norway. That's the first observation, and yeah, we'll see what the rest of the day will bring. Well, hello everybody. We are in Norway, as you know from the previous clips, and I'm with Stian Krok, owner, the head mead maker. What's your title?
My title is Dark Overlord. It's kind of a joke, but I do most of the things here now currently. But we are in 5 people at shareholders of the meadery. But these days it's only me and a bunch of volunteers, and some of the other guys pop by to do some stuff.
Absolutely. Your meadery, well, we always say Mjodereit. But how do you spell it? How do you pronounce it correctly in Norwegian?
It's very close. Mjoderiet.
Mjoderiet. Mm. So we are in Mjoderiet in Bergen, in Norway. I have to tell you, you should probably see from the clips, the weather is absolutely horrendous. It's raining, it's cold, but you're obviously going to show us now. Is it the oldest? Is it the first Norwegian meadery?
Yes, it is. We started in 2016, which isn't too many years ago, but we're the first in Norway to only make mead. So before that, you had a few beer breweries who made, you know, the occasional mead just for fun. just a little sidekick. But we are the first to say no. We are a meadery where we'll make mead.
Yeah. So no beer, no wine, no cider, pure mead.
Yes.
Made with 100% of natural honey.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
No sugar, no cheating.
Brilliant, fantastic. So, right, if you want to take us for the journey here and just tell us how how the things work in the Mjoderiet. So let's start. Obviously, we're starting here, right? So
Yeah.
What's that tank?
This is something that you don't see in commercial beer in breweries. It's basically a huge mixing tank. So inside here is like a propeller.
Oh, it's like a paddle, yeah.
Paddle, yeah. And then so we pump it full of hot water, not full, but a little bit, and then we pour honey into it. We use 20 kilo buckets. So we have to make sure that the honey is liquid, and it's a lot of work. And if it's not liquid, we have to mix it with hot water.
Anybody ever made any batch of mead? They know exactly what's how difficult it is sometimes to get that honey dissolved. So basically, that's where you prepare your wort. Yeah, you mix your water with honey.
Yeah. That's so we use about 600 kilos of honey. And then we top it off with water, so it's about each batch is about 16 to 1700 liters, 1,700 liters. And this is for what we call a base mead, because I'll show you later in the process. But there are two main ways to make mead. Either you can add all the ingredients at once and ferment it like you would do with anything like beer, wine, or cider. Yeah. Or you can do like we do, like make a dry base mead and then blend in other stuff.
Infuse it with fruits and spices and whatever. Brilliant. Okay, so shall we move to another location?
Absolutely.
So tell us, what's your production yearly?
Finished product that we actually sell is around 10,000 liters.
10,000 liters per year. And mostly you do it I know you do it lots of session meads, but it's not only that what you do.
No, when we started we made a lot of session meads because the concept was quite new and it was a bit exciting. The problem is really that we make a lot less money per bottle for session meads than stronger meads because of raw material prices and the way things are in Norway with the alcohol laws. So it's actually more profitable for us to make stronger meads. So we make more of those now than we used to, but we also like to make some session meads from time to time.
But same is not more difficult to sell than bottles?
The thing is that session meads are lower in alcohol, but they cost almost the same to make as a stronger mead. And Norwegians in general, they like to get value for their money when they buy alcohol. So they are willing to pay more for stronger meads than they would for session meads. So we can't sell session meads for the same price as the strong meads, but we should because they cost almost the same.
Right. Because you're talking about sell, and that's very interesting in Norway. Could you tell me a little bit more how you selling your mead and generally how you sell alcohol in Norway?
Ooh, we can do a whole episode about just the Norway's alcohol laws because it's very unique in Norway, Sweden and Finland have very restrictive alcohol laws and that you don't have anywhere else in Europe. But so the thing is we have to sell our strong meads. You can sell like light meads 4.7% alcohol or less, then you can sell it directly to stores like supermarkets.
Okay.
But anything stronger you have to sell either directly to bars or restaurants or to the state-controlled Vinmonopolet, the wine monopoly.
Say again, Vinmonopolet?
Yes.
Vinmonopolet. And it's like the national shop for alcohol?
Yes. They have about 500 shops all over Norway, in all the cities or even small towns. And we have to do it through a distributor that also serves for the restaurant market, but we can also sell directly to restaurants if we like. Like we can take a case from our storage and deliver it to town.
But only to restaurant? Yes, you're not allowed to sell by yourself to the customers.
No.
Okay, right. Okay,
So,
what about markets? Are you allowed to do it there?
No, if you like festivals or markets, then the festival has to have a permission to sell it, which is possible, but it's a little bit of paperwork.
Right. Okay.
But the main bulk of our volume goes to Vinmonopolet, and they're selling it through different channels in their systems to the stores.
So far we've been in the town, Bergen city, and I haven't seen that shop.
No, it's usually in like inside shopping malls and things like that.
Okay.
So it's not.
So what time they selling alcohol? From what?
From
12 to 1? Oh.
No, it's not that bad. But it's the opening hours are from 10 to 6 on weekdays and 10 to 4 on Saturdays, and it's closed on Sundays.
So if you not get your alcohol to 6 o'clock during of the week,
then you have to wait.
Right the week. Okay, that's
but you can buy like up to 4.7% beer, like lagers and things like that.
On the shop,
and every
shop.
Yeah,
okay.
But only until 8 in the evening on weekdays and 6 in the evening on Saturday.
Oh, that's crazy. So
but all Norwegians know this.
Exactly. So that was my next question. You Norwegian, how you prepare yourself for that environment? What do you do? You keep your bottles at home, or?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have some bottles of wine or spirit or something strong, you have to go to Vinmonopolet. And of course, usually, for example, on Friday afternoon after work, everyone is getting something for the weekend, and there is a long line at Vinmonopolet. Also, if you go to a grocery store at like 5 to 8 in the evening, there's usually also a big line because all the people with beer, they will be.
I saw we saw with Chris that big queue also when we get out from the plane. It's first time when I saw that actually duty-free shop in Norway are also when you're going out from airport, and everyone going there and buy alcohol and tobacco. So that was something new for us. Okay, tell us about that room. What's going on here?
So this is the main fermentation room.
That's your main fermenter?
Yeah, we have 2 of these main fermenters. They're old milk tanks. But they're actually really good for our purposes because they have temperature control.
Full now.
And they have a stirring mechanism so you can keep the yeast active. And the lids are not completely tight, so the CO2 will automatically come out.
Yeah, but if they're not tight, you're not afraid.
You have to move them.
Since the fermentation is finished, you move them.
Yeah.
They also on some kind of little bit bent.
It's level because down here is the outlet. So if it was completely level, you would need like a pump to extract everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right.
So, but they are we got them quite cheap, and they are about 1,800 liters. So it's a perfect size to match the blender.
So
one full blender is one full tank. Perfect. Essentially.
Okay. Right. Okay.
So we ferment. We usually use wine yeast, and we ferment quite low and slow. So around 15 to 16% alcohol, and 15 to 16 degrees Celsius is the fermentation temperature.
Right. Okay.
And when it's dry, we just let it rip. So we let it go all the way. So it becomes a dry base mead of about 16 to 17% alcohol. And then we stabilize the yeast with sulfur, so it doesn't...
You do this in this container?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then we know we have a 16-17% dry mead, which is stable, and which tastes very little, It smells a little bit of honey, but it tastes only like alcohol and a little bit like not much, really. And afterwards, when we have that stabilized, then we move it out of this room, and then we continue to play with it.
Okay, let's go show us. Is anything else what we should know about them?
Well, here we have some barrels that we use for sour meads.
Sour meads?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is kind of an experiment. We made one sour mead before. This is our second batch. So these barrels have been used for sour beer before. And that means they have yeast and bacteria living inside the barrels. Mm-hmm. So all you need to do is put fresh mead in, and they will start fermenting.
Yeah. So what kind of barrels are? Where you get them?
These are old French wine barrels from Burgundy, red wine barrels. Mm-hmm. and they have been used by a Norwegian brewery called Norwegien, which is quite famous for a sour beer with cherries, a kriek.
Right. Okay.
But you will not be able to taste that so much now because this is the second filling.
Right, so the meat obviously been mixed first, then been fermented, been transferred. Well, what's happening now? So we've got that raw, 16% meat, which doesn't really taste much of anything.
Yeah.
So what's happening then? What's happening next?
Well, we're using this method to it's a very easy way to control the alcohol levels and the sugar levels, because all you need to do is make some calculations on the liters and grams per, sugar and honey and all that stuff. So what we do is we pump out the base mead from the tanks, and we put it in like temporary plastic containers, like 1,000-liter containers.
The IBC?
IBCs, yeah. And then we blend in, we back sweeten with more honey and water and fruit.
Obviously at that stage that meat is stable, because you said you stabilize it with sulfates and sorbate and all that, so it's stable, so you can safely back sweeten or add extra sugar to it.
Of course you have to make sure that what you put in there is also stable. It's like, pasteurized or somehow treated.
Of course,
and if you're not sure, maybe you add a little bit more sulfur in the end, But honey, water, fruit puree, fruit juice, spices, whatever you want to put in it. And then we wait for any sediments to fall to the bottom, drop out of suspension as much as possible. And then we rack it to another vessel, and then we filter it. So we have a quite potent filter, which removes all the yeast particles.
How fine is the filter?
0.2 micron.
So it will actually take out the yeast cells.
Everything, yeah.
So even though you stabilize it, you then kind of...
It's like an extra security.
It's an extra security, yeah. So have you had any issues with your meat where it blow up in a bottle?
Oh yes. In the beginning it was a lot. We had a lot of that, and we become really...
But that was before obviously the filter.
Yes. So this filter was kind of the solution to that problem, because mead only contains sugar. So if you get like any sort of bacteria in there, it will start to make trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you ever made any batches at home, then you know how important it is to stabilize it, because you can just make like a grenade.
And you never know when the fermentation is completely done. You can restart after weeks or months in the bottle.
Well, been there.
Yeah. So we filter it, and then it goes eventually into these pressure tanks.
Right, pressure tanks. So is that
600 liters and 1,000 liters.
So is that for sparkling mead?
That's for any mead.
Any.
And all the meads, well, 99% of the meads go through this. So either when it's after filtration, so it's crystal clear, it's stable, it's ready, the recipe, everything is ready, like proper back sweetening levels, fruit additions, everything is done and it's filtered. So it goes in here, and then we can carbonate it if we want to. Then we use this carbonation stone, which is...
so you can actually force carbonate it into the tank.
A lot of brewers do the same thing, really, with most actually. So this is the carbonation stone.
It's pretty much like a large aquarium air stone.
It is. So then we just we carbonate it if we want to carbonate it. But even if we don't carbonate it, we use CO2 to have stable levels when we bottle or keg. So it goes from these tanks into the bottling line, or
so this is literally just like a transfer between after filtration, before bottling, it just go through that tank, regardless if it's carbonated or not.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha. Okay.
So if it's not carbonated, we only use the CO2 to create pressure. So we have even pressure all the time when the levels are lower after.
And also you'll have a less space with oxygen. Your headspace is then obviously filled with CO2.
Yeah. So it's just a really convenient way, and if you only use CO2 to press the meat out, it will not be carbonated.
Yeah.
It's not enough time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Obviously, it is a bit chilly day to day.
Absolutely.
But here in the meadery, is that an issue for you when you're fermenting? Do you need to control your temperature somehow? And how do you do that?
Yes, sadly, this is a very old and poorly insulated building. So there are some issues with that. We have ways to get around it, but mostly the main part of our fermentation activity, like brewing, happens in between April and November.
Right. So obviously it's
because then the room temperature in here is not too cold.
Too cold. Because obviously, if your temperature drops too much, then the yeast can stall, and the fermentation will stop.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, if it's too hot, you need to cool it down.
Yeah.
Unless you ferment it with quake, then you want to keep it up.
Yeah. No, normally in the summer months or summer, autumn, spring months, the room temperature here is good enough. Is high enough for us to ferment, because the tanks, the main tanks, they have a cooling system, but you can't heat it up.
Yes.
So you can bring down the temperature, but you can't back it up.
Okay, so obviously you try to do all fermentation like a spring, summertime when it's but then again,
like for example, in this year in November we brewed 2 batches back to back with base mead, so that we have something to blend in the winter.
But then again, the low temperature is good for storing. It's good for aging.
Yes. So that's all right. We have like blankets to wrap, like electric blankets, so we can wrap around one of the plastic tanks, for example, if we really want to ferment in the winter months. But that has its limitation, because then it's only maximum 1,000 liters, and it has to be inside that. So that's only for like special projects. But it's mainly brewing in the summer months and blending in the winter. That's sort of it. We were hoping to fix this insulation problem, but right now it's very cold here in the winter.
Right, cool. So let's go to the next station.
So next step, meat being pretty much ready. We have to put to the bottle. Is that your bottling line? Yeah.
Yes. Sadly, it is. We bought it new from a small Norwegian company. But it turned out to be a very bad design, so we had a lot of issues with it.
All right.
The most important issue is that the corking device doesn't really work, although we tried to fix it many times, and even the people from the company tried to fix it, but they can't fix their own machine. So we were kind of screwed on that deal.
Right.
But the filler works, so we just have to do the bottling by hand. So we have like manual corkers.
You cork by hand,
yes,
but it's filling okay.
The filling,
so how fast is this line? How many bottles per hour?
Depends on the size, but these the ones you see there are 0.33 that we usually use for our session meads. And the filler takes about 300 of those bottles per hour.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but it's not like super fast. We also have like smaller brown bottles, 0.25 bottles.
Okay.
And that's like about 500 per hour, so that's quite a bit quicker, because also the session meads are usually carbonated, and the carbonated meads are slower to process, because it's counter pressure, and
All right, so
you can't fill the bottles quite as fast.
Okay, so when you do that's something new for me. So when you fill the session meads or carbonate meads, you have to fill like half bottle or something, and then you slowly adding more.
The machine does everything, but you can't the filling speed of the.
Oh, so you control the speed.
You have to turn down the speed, otherwise it will be a lot of foam.
So when you're filling the bottles, how many people have to work with that machine? 1 or 2?
No. It's ideally it should be 1 feeding bottles and 1 packing bottles if it was working properly, but it's not. So instead we have to have 1 or 2 people doing manual corks.
Okay.
So usually 4 or 5 people are involved in the process.
If we talk about staff, how many people work in your meadery?
0.
You're only 1 mead maker, and you got lots of help
volunteers. I mean, a few years ago, the other guys from Mjoderiet was also helping, but they have various life issues now at the moment, so they don't have time to help so much. But we have a very fantastic small group of volunteers that help us, and they work for some free meat and pizza, and we try to throw a party for them sometimes and things like that to keep them happy. But I really love our volunteers. If you're a volunteer watching this, we love you.
Because that's also important. You still keep your job. You all people who's working here, that's not the main job. Just obviously it's passion and a side job, which is quite interesting. Do you think you could live only on mead making in Norway, or it's going to be very difficult to
well, we are optimistic about the future, because we see an increase in interest in mead all the time, but it's quite slow. So we're building stone by stone on stone by very slowly. It's not something. When we started, we thought, okay, this is going to be great, everybody's going to love it, because we're super excited. When you're super excited, it's hard to tell what is going to happen when you actually give it to some people you don't know. So, but every year we get new connections and new contracts and new things. So I think slowly it will become possible to have staff here, at least 1 or 2 persons, maybe more eventually. But right now we just want to focus on not spending the money that we make on salaries and just working for free instead. So maybe one day we can get enough volume going to justify hiring people for real.
So how many meaderies now in Norway?
4. It used to be us, and then in 2020 there were 2 more meaderies, Mjoderiet and Malebubu. And now recently there's a new, just I think maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago, called Mythology, from the south of Norway. So we have south, west and east. Okay, all right. So 4 in total.
So what's the biggest problem when you try give to people meat? What's Norwegian thinking about meat? Because I know, a problem with many parts of the world, it's education. People don't know exactly what is meat. What's the main issue with the customers in Norway?
I think the main issue is that, well, there are several issues, but let's start with, I think, the main problem. In Norway, for many, many years, maybe 20 or 30 years, there was only one mead on the market in Norway, a Danish mead, which I discovered some time ago isn't really a mead. It's like it's mixed with sugar and things like that, so it's quite cheap. And I hate to say bad things about my competitors, but it's not good. It's the only mead that people have been trying in Norway for like a generation. So a lot of people say, if they have tried mead at all, they will say, no, I don't like it, because they tried that one mead. And also people think it's just a weird, like old name for beer. So they think it's some sort of strong Viking beer, and I think, no, this is only for like specially interested people. But when we give them our meats, when people get the chance to try them, a lot of people really like them. Of course, another issue is the price point, but I think that's an international issue. But
what you just mentioned, about bad meat on the market, it's happened in many countries. Many problems is like that. People try once bad meat, and then
they don't try again.
They focus only on that bad experience when never try the real good meat.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a challenge, but I mean, every time we go to a festival, every time we have a tasting, a lot of people discover mead for the first time, and slowly I think we're building some customer base.
Good luck. Thank you.
Obviously, we've seen all that now. The bottling line, that's obviously the final stage. But let's go back a little bit, and let's talk about conditioning mead. So obviously, we've noticed you've got quite a few oak barrels. Yes. Is that just oak, French oak, American oak?
All of these are actually used bourbon barrels. Okay. So we bought them fresh, like freshly emptied from the US through a contact.
Absolutely, because obviously bourbon it's American whiskey, and it always has to go to in the fresh oak barrel. Once used, that's it. It cannot be reused for bourbon purposes. Hence, a lot of other industries buying them and putting their own stuff. So obviously, I know a lot of distilleries in Scotland, they put and finish the whiskey in bourbon. So okay, so that'll be obviously American oak.
All of these are now all of the ones that you see here. They've all been used at least once. So now we just fill them with a semi-sweet base mead, and we're just gonna let them sit for quite a long time and see what happens. And then maybe we'll blend something with it or do something.
Yeah, because obviously the barrels, they're not as active. The longer you use them a few times, they're just not as active anymore. Have you ever thought about maybe selling them to the brewery or something like that? So somebody maybe put beer in a mead barrel.
Yeah, we just haven't gotten around to doing it. But we thought about it, but it requires a bit of planning because you need a brewery who's willing to do a project like that. And you can't have a barrel sitting around empty for very long because they will crack up, and then you can't use them anymore. So you have to. It's all about timing. So if you don't get a brewery to do that, then you just need to do something else with it.
Sure. So how many we got here? Is it 2, 4, 6, 8?
Yeah, it's
200 liters each. Or
220? Yeah. No, it's around 200. But so these, like I said, these are pretty much used. But later this year, we are planning on a whole range of barrel-aged meads. So we have bought new supporters. So we can like this one, so you can put on top. And build an extra layer. So around like August, September or something this year, we're going to fill a bunch of new barrels with a bunch of new flavors and a bunch of new meats. So we're really looking forward to that.
Well, I'm getting excited now.